All right, ladies and gentlemen, this particular skill you're going to be identifying supporting details in informational text. So you're going to be reading a statement and then you are going to be supporting that statement with evidence from the text. The following passage explains how the U.S. entered World War II. Select the best evidence to support the statement that before the U.S. entered World War II, many Americans believed that the U.S. should avoid internal conflict. The United States was unprepared for war. Many people and politicians were isolationists who saw no reason why their country should fight Germany or Japan. All that changed with the attack on Pearl Harbor. In 1939, the U.S. Army had 190,000 men. By 1945, it would have 10.4 million. Millions more were in the Navy, Marines, and Air Force. Newly enlisted men will march onto bases that were still under construction. Car companies stopped making cars for civilians and started making jeeps, trucks, tanks, and other vehicles for the military. Tire companies had to create synthetic rubber because Japan had captured only countries in the world that produce natural rubber. So here it says, select the best evidence to support the statement that before the U.S. entered World War II, many Americans believe that the U.S. should avoid internal conflict. If I look at this first sentence right here, it says the United States was unprepared for war. Many people and politicians were isolationists who saw no reason why their country should fight Germany or Japan. So because they felt that they had no reason to fight Germany or Japan and they were isolationists, this is the evidence that supports many Americans believe that the U.S. should avoid international conflict, which means they didn't want any part. I'm going to hit submit. All right, let's try another one. This here says the following passage is about African American polar explorer Matthew Henson. Select the best evidence to support the statement that Henson became unhappy with sailing when other sailors were cruel to him. Captain Childs took Matthew aside for 2 hours every day to teach him reading, writing, geography, history, carpentry, and how to navigate by the stars. During his years aboard ship, Matthew visited China, Japan, and Manila in the Philippines, as well as North Africa, Spain, France, and southern Russia. Then misfortune struck. In 1883, Captain Childs died, and Henson was forced to look for work on other sailing ships. 2 years later, sick of fellow sailors calling him racial names and taunting him with insults, Henson left sailing. He found work over the next 2 years as a watchman, dock worker, chauffeur, messenger boy, and bellhop. So it says select the best evidence to support the statement that Henson became unhappy with sailing when sailors were cruel to him. So it says after that Captain Childs died, it says 2 years later, sick of fellow sailors calling him racial names and taunting him with insults, Henson left sailing. All right. One last one. This one says, select the best evidence to support the statement that migrating birds consume food to prepare for their migrations. All right, traveling birds. Migrating means traveling. All right, people visiting Yosemite National Park will see that bird behaviors depending on the time of year and habit. During the winter, it is a treat to watch John Muir's favorite bird, the American dipper, as it plunges underneath ice in search for aquatic insects and minnows. During the spring and fall, large numbers of migrating birds can be seen and heard as they flock through the vegetation, busily foraging on insects, seeds, berries, or other birds to build their fat supplies to supply themselves with fuel for their long journeys. Spring in Yosemite is especially exciting when migrant flocks of warblers, flycatchers, and tanagers with brightly colored feathers and melodic songs grace the landscape. So here it says, select the best statement that migrating birds, traveling birds consume food to prepare for their migrations. Well, here it says, during spring and fall, large numbers of migrating birds can be seen and heard as they flock towards the vegetation, busily foraging on insects, seeds, berries, and other birds to build their fat supplies to supply themselves with fuel for their long journeys. You want to hit submit. All right, you're going to try the others on your own. Your goal is to reach 80%, and if this is a skill in which you've already reached 80%, then your goal is to reach 100. You got this. Good luck.